Our dumbbell external rotation is a great exercise for our overall shoulder health because it gets all of our lats and all of our rotator cuff working together to produce external and a little bit of internal rotation, which when we're throwing or bowling is vital. You're not going to want a heavy weight for this one. Between 1 and 2.5 kilos is plenty. Then you want something to pop in between your elbow and your body, just to elevate your elbow just a little to about there. What having something there is going to do is that you're going to squeeze into it. It's going to keep our elbow still. So our elbow is then going to act as a pivot point rather than what you may have seen in the gym, what you may have done yourself, what you may have seen elsewhere, is people doing this exercise like that. Now that movement is not coming from your shoulder. I don't even know what that's working. Okay, that's doing nothing. What we want is that elbow to be nice and still. We don't want a great deal of motion, but we just want that movement to be coming from our shoulder, externally rotating. So you can use a mat, you can use a jumper, you can use some bands, but we basically want something that's about 1 inch thick for us to squeeze into. So we don't want that elbow tight into our body. We want that elbow directly underneath our shoulder. So to fill that gap, then put something in there. There we go, and that's engaged. Now what we want in that position as well is we want a 90-degree angle in here. So we don't want that in there, we don't want that down there. About there is about right. Wrist nice and strong. And then we're going to be on our side because we're really having to control the downward phase against gravity. Pull your shoulder away from your ear and backwards. So in a nice good posture. Push down into the pad and go down to start with. So internal rotation and then up into external rotation. Control it down and up, down and up. Now this exercise you're probably going to feel more in here and more engagement than you've ever felt before. It's a really, really good exercise. So take it nice and slow, focus on control, don't worry about the weight. If you're not feeling it, then you probably haven't listened to all the cues quite right. So go back through the video, check the cues, check you're doing all of them correctly and you're in the right position. Film yourself, check how it looks on this video. If it's still not feeling it in and around your shoulder, give me a message, send us a video and we'll analyze it for you and help you get it right. Because for our overall overhead shoulder health, when we're bowling and throwing, this exercise is really, really good to get that rotator cuff nice and healthy to support the shoulder. The single leg hinge. So if we weren't on one leg, our hinge pattern would be there. So we've got a soft bend in our knee. We're pushing our hips back, keeping our chest nice and proud. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer that onto one leg. So start in an A-drive position. I like to use my arms for this because it gives me balance and rhythm. Then we're going to keep this knee locked all the way through. Hinge back, keep that knee with that soft bend, and then come through. The key with this one is that we don't rotate our hips. Okay, so we want to keep our hips and shoulders square to the floor. By square to the floor, I mean like this, rather than like that. For that, a really good cue is keeping this toe pointing to the floor, or if you've got your knee bent, then in this end position, the sole of your foot is pointing to the sky rather than round there. Really hard exercise to balance through, so make sure we're doing it with control and discipline. We're still looking to push our hips back, keeping that soft bend in the knee, but hopefully we've mastered our bilateral, so on both legs, our bilateral hinge, which now means we're ready to do it on one leg. the single arm landmine press. So we're going to hold the landmine in there. We're going to have our thumb pop on top of the landmine, and then our elbow is going to be down. So we're not going to have the landmine in front of our chin, we're going to have it in front of our shoulder. So once you've picked it up, landmine is in front of your shoulder, elbow is pointing down to the floor, a little lean, 10-degree lean into the bar, pelvis is tucked under, core is engaged. From here, everything's going to remain still, and then we're just going to push landmine up, lock out our elbow, so our scapula is going to come around our ribs, and control it back down, keeping your elbow pointing the floor on the way down. So what we don't want is we don't want to push up and around. We want to push the landmine in a straight line up and control it straight back down to our shoulder. We don't want any rotation in our body, so we don't want to turn our hips and our shoulders. Keep everything square to the landmine. So the only thing that is moving is our arm in there. So on your weaker side, you'll probably want to come wider on the way down. So that's what we want to resist. To make sure we're drawing, imagine we're drawing a straight line up and back down into our shoulder. Really good for our scapular stability to protect our shoulder. Our Paloff press, same as our Paloff hold, apart from we're going to pull the band into our sternum and then press it back out. We want it to be a nice, slow, controlled movement. The slower, the better. Feet shoulder width apart, band at 90 degrees to you on a movable object, and then everything else facing straight forward. Making sure that we're pushing the band out in a nice straight line, so we're not pushing to there. We're pushing directly in front of our sternum, then bring it in. Keep our shoulders back and relaxed. Knees can have a soft bend in them, hips tucked forward. And you should be able to talk whilst doing it, whilst engaging your core, especially in this side, but then also working across your... Our dead bug position, hands are directly above our shoulders, knees are directly above our hips, shins are horizontal, toes are pulled to our shin. In this position, all you're going to do to start with is push your lower back into the floor and try and reach the sky with your arms, okay? So we're not here, we're just reaching up to the sky. And then what we're going to do, unilateral, so that means the same side is going to move at once. So our right arm is going to move backwards, and our right leg is going to move down and then back in. You can alternate if you want. In there. The hardest bit about this movement isn't the side that's moving, it's the side that isn't moving. So a bad dead bug would look something like this. Oh no, that's the wrong way, sorry. It's quite hard to do badly actually when you've got in the rhythm. So there, but then this leg would drop as well, or this arm would want to come back. So it's really important that this side stays dead still and isn't moving about in there. Imagine you've got a string in between your foot and this hand, and that string isn't going to shorten or lengthen at any point, irrespective of the side that's moving. Being unilateral and moving the same side, the side that moves, you're going to feel it in your core on that side, but don't forget it's working the other side as well, because where you're feeling it isn't always where it's working most. Final thing with this one is do it at a nice slow tempo. So the quicker you do it, the easier it will be. So ideally go 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up. Nice and slow.